So it's been over 6 months since my last video of criticizing SolarBalls, and 5 months since my last video centered around the channel in general. So I wanted to make this video just to give my thoughts on the newer episodes, the upcoming arc, and point to my last video that I wanted to elaborate on or reverse since there are a few. But before we begin, please like and subscribe and join membership if you want to support more on the channel. So let's start. First, I want to talk about some points in my SolarBalls criticism video that I made that I want to reverse. Specifically about what I said about Luna being a jerk by yelling at the Earth and leaving him alone. Now in case you were unaware, in the episode Jupiter Returns Part 2, Earth, Luna, Mars, Venus, and Mercury were all playing solar cards. However, as some conflicts with Earth trying to desperately find answers about Theia, he ends up causing Mars to leave, followed by Mercury, Venus, and then Luna, who starts getting pretty angry at him for ruining the game. Now I said how Mars was innocent about Earth because he was talking about Jupiter, which was a sensitive topic to him, especially in the previous scene where he said he doesn't want to really talk to Jupiter because it feels weird for him being back. So I can understand why Mars got upset and left, although I do find that action still kinda mean. However, what I said about Luna is that he was being invalid and the crash out was just not justified because, let's be fair here, he was yelling at Earth and leaving her alone in an unstable state. But after getting a response from Evero and looking at other people's opinions, I can actually see why Luna acted this way. I mean, he's always wanted to play with the planets, which has been something he's wanted to do as far back as when SolarBalls launched in 2022, which is pretty evident throughout the show based on clips like,
"Cool, me too. Though he really makes me feel like I don't matter sometimes.
I guess. I don't know. They never invite me to their card games. The rocky planets are always playing cards and they sort of forget I even exist. I see no reason why I can't join." Yeah, just sitting on the sidelines can get quite tedious.
So when he finally gets an opportunity after so long, it makes sense why he's upset at the Earth, which, well, yes, I'm not saying it's justified, but as based on the earlier scene, the other rocky planets were making the scene uncomfortable, and with Venus and Mercury bickering and Mars sounding pretty annoyed, but it also makes sense since Earth was the one who ruined the moment. So yes, Luna's crash out was justified, however, Mercury's stunt comment was not. I don't even know why he said that, I do not know why the writers even put that in. I don't care if he was upset, that is just plain old character assassination and just an insane thing to say in general. Besides that, there's really nothing else to talk about from that video, so let's just move on to the current stuff. First, the Theia arc, which was going on while my criticism video was uploaded, as this video was uploaded on the same day as the Plans Develop Life Part 3 video was uploaded. However, that does also mean a lot of the more important episodes of the arc haven't been talked about, so by the time we talk about the arc in its entirety. Now first, I thought the arc dragged a lot, especially with the first half with Jupiter returning and Earth losing his minds. I don't know, I feel like while so much has happened, I feel like they were juggling plot points too much. It just felt like everything was going at a super slow pace, and it kind of felt boring to watch sometimes. However, as Theia and Proto got closer and as we approached the crash, and even after the crash, the pacing became much better, and this is when stuff started to get pretty interesting. I also want to talk about the episode where Theia and Proto actually crashed, which was super great. One of the best episodes SolarBalls has released in a while. I also love the soundtrack, it perfectly encapsulates the arc in a good way. I especially loved how they played during the montage of Proto and Theia hanging out with each other as well as the part where they crashed. That was a pretty good music choice in my opinion. Also, I loved how they specifically didn't split the episode Earth Awakens into 3 parts and just made one video to wrap up the entire arc. Great choice by the team. Now in my opinion, this is probably the best arc in the entire series, better than both the Moon Revolution and the Planet X arc, although I do have a little bias with the Planet X arc as I do feel a lot of nostalgia for it. I don't know, a lot of fun things were happening in my personal life at the time, and I also watched SolarBalls a lot during this period, so I usually associate the Planet X arc with this moment of my life. Moving on, I want to talk about the episodes after the arc, but first, there's another thing I wanted to mention really fast, that being the updated designs. Now it feels pretty weird for the characters to have these updated models. I mean, I'm so used to seeing the old cartoony looks, but I actually don't mind these looks, pretty honest. I think they look pretty good. Next is time to talk about the episodes of the solar system, but it's just moons. And there's really nothing to talk about, except for one little nitpick I have. You see, in the solar system but moons part 1, when the Earth returns, the sun specifically says that all of his planets are no longer allowed in the solar system. However, by part 2, he says, oh, you can't stay in the solar system, just between the asteroid and Kuiper belts. I get people in general tend to threaten to do something really extreme, or for them to not do it or tone it down a lot, because they don't really have the guts to do it, but still, I feel like it was only done to make people watch the next episode. I have a similar nitpick for the After the Crash episode part 1, which in the end, when Astro is telling the story, he specifically says that a mysterious third object has formed between Proto and Theia. And yes, this mysterious third object did exist, based on computer simulations of the crash. However, it didn't last long, as it eventually crashed and it will become Earth, which yes, that happens in part 2. Like once again, it's a weird thing to shove in as a cliffhanger, especially since it will only be relevant for like one episode after that. Now, those were the only nitpicks I wanted to mention. Next are the Halloween special episodes, which were pretty solid. And this is a weird thing to mention, but I'm pretty happy that these videos perform much better than they usually did. Usually when SolarBalls makes videos that are not part of the main story, they tend to underperform, usually getting around half the views that the main storyline videos get. However, these episodes outperform more than double what they usually get, which probably makes sense because it's based on the Moon Awakens series, which is pretty popular at the moment. But still, I'm kind of happy that these videos did as well as they did. Also, leaving the final episode of the Halloween specials at a cliffhanger is crazy, and it's pretty weird that they would do this. Now, what I'm about to say is speculation, and it's probably super untrue, but I think I might know why. You see, I think the reason is that Part 3 wasn't actually supposed to be the end. There was supposed to be a Part 4, however, Part 3 was delayed by 1 week, so when that episode was pushed back, Part 4 ended up being pushed back past Halloween, and basically they didn't see any point of uploading the episode either because A, it was past Halloween, or B, they at least wanted to get back to the main story that people have been waiting for. Now, I could be totally wrong, and Alvaro, if you're watching this, let me know in the comments, but that's just a thought I've been having. Next are the True Scale of the Universe episodes.
Good boy.
I hear this at school way too much, though these episodes were pretty fun. The humor is pretty good, and I also like how Astro Dude has finally joined the main storyline, although this is probably short-lived, as at the end of the Solar System True Scale episode, he ends up finding Cosmo's ship and wants to explore it, which most likely means he'll not be in the main story for the next few episodes, which is kind of sad in my opinion. And also, in Pacific Part 3, I really love how they show just how powerful the sun is compared to the rest of the planets. Having him send gravitational waves across the entire solar system, putting everything in its place, is such an insane feat, and really just shows how inferior the planets are to him. I also love that they finally introduced the rest of the dwarf planets, which is likely because of one thing, which is the next thing I'm going to be talking about in this video, that being
the rogue planets.
So the Rogue planets are the next major arc of SolarBalls. Honestly, this has been known for months, as even the actual soundtrack for the arc is already available on YouTube, and based on the cover of the song and the thumbnails for the Patreon, Planet X is returning, which is great. I kinda wish he had more screen time during the Planet X arc, so it's very nice to see him again, and hopefully it'll be more fleshed out this time. Now, do I have faith in the entire idea in general? Yeah, I do. Honestly, based on how big some of these Rogue planets are, they're likely going to be a massive threat to the solar system. Now, there are a few theories of what might happen in this arc. First theory, and I'm actually going to give credit to SolarBalls Theory for bringing this up in his video about the Rogue Planet arc, but basically the theory is that in the Solar System But Moons Part 2 episode, Jupiter basically says that they want to be a united solar system, as that is the cause of most of the problems that I've been having throughout the show, and knowing how many Rogue planets are going up against, this might actually test how united the solar system is, and if they're actually going to keep their promise. Now, one theory I actually have that I actually thought of is that maybe the Rogue planets are actually rebellious planets that went against their star, and now independent, thus roaming the solar system freely, and likely to gain allies that can help them rebel against the star. Knowing how fed up the planets are with the sun, they might actually end up joining the Rogue planets to help take down the sun, or if the planets are currently stuck by the sun's gravity, the Rogue planets might actually help free them. Now, of course, there's someone not like this, as knowing how he handles intruders, he's probably going to be really threatening to them, but knowing how big some of these Rogue planets are, and knowing how many they are as well, I think they can actually free the planets from their stuck orbits. However, these are just theories, and honestly, anything can happen in the show, which I'm pretty excited about, especially since this will be the first arc where they're going to uncharted waters. There are a few more things I want to talk about SolarBalls. First, them starting to use new voice actors for the new episodes. Now, in case you weren't aware, before Planet X's voice was revealed, all the male and female characters were voiced by the same two people, which congrats to both of them on making distinct voices for the characters, but still, it would have been nice to see new voice actors join the show, which they did when Planet X joined the show, and soon, SolarBalls started bringing new voice actors for the new characters like Proto, Thea, and Senna, and it makes me wonder if the Rogue planets are gonna have the voices of the old characters, the voices of the new characters, or bring even more people to help voice act. I also want to talk about the success in the past few months because they have been growing quite fast. Just a few months ago in August, SolarBalls was officially added on Amazon Prime in the UK and Ireland, which while you could say this is also Amazon's way of trying to get indie animations onto the site to increase the credibility, especially since Murder Drones was also added on Amazon Prime not too long ago. But still, knowing that SolarBalls was specifically chosen for this is pretty great in my opinion. And they also soon expanded to Canada, Australia, and New Zealand a month later. Still nothing for the US though. Also, they added a Spotify player showing all the original music, as well as passing over 100,000 total members on their Patreon, with almost 2,000 paid members, which also makes them the second largest animation account based on paid members, beating even other large indie animation channels like Monkey Wrench. And knowing that the lowest tier is only $5, they're definitely making bank. In general, it's really nice seeing SolarBalls become more like an actual cartoon and similar to other shows like The Amazing Digital Circus and Lackadaisy, from story arcs, memberships, and their own music, as well as getting onto actual streaming services. And I'm really excited of what's to come for the show. show. One more thing I want to mention is how would this show end? Now, not all shows last forever, unless it's like Family Guy or SpongeBob, but still, even some popular shows like The Amazing Digital Circus are coming to an end, especially as we're entering the last few episodes, and Alvaro has confirmed that SolarBalls will end eventually. Now when? I don't know. SolarBalls started in 2022, so we're currently entering their 4th year when 2026 was around, which is around the average lifespan of an indie show, which would make them have a pretty decent lifespan. However, I pretty much doubt that they'll end it next year, especially since the Rogue Planet arc is about to start and it's probably going to go on into a majority of 2026. However, I think 2027 to 2029 would be a good range, and I feel like they could do a lot between now and those dates, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised with all the potential ideas would have exhausted at this point. Now, there are also a few theories of how the show is going to end. First, one theory called the Red Giant arc, basically when the sun turns to a red giant and destroys other planets, causing a sad ending of everyone just dying because of the sun. And while that does sound pretty great, but also pretty dark, there's a better theory I have, and the evidence I got is the comment that Alvaro also mentioned when he stated that the show will end, that being that it will end where it started. Now, the show started when Asteroid was ready to get sent into space for exploration, expansion, and more resources. So what if the show ends when the humans start conquering the planets, either hurting them in the process or cause an accident like creating a mini black hole thus destroying the solar system? Those are just my thoughts, and honestly, these could be pretty wrong. I mean, a lot could happen in the next few years, so who knows what could happen. But as of now, we have the Rogue Planet arc to look forward to. However, what are your thoughts on the arc? What criticisms do you have for the show? What are your thoughts and predictions for the Rogue Planet arc, as well as the show in general and how it would end? Let me know in the comments below. If you made this far into the video, thank you so much. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you guys next time.